Absolutely, absolutely, and of course, along with it, so what these amendments are, they couldn't get all of this into the treaty and get it passed because there was so much pushback. We even had all these left wingers that were coming out opposed to it. I mean, even Bobby Kennedy certainly wasn't and isn't a conservative, but he is opposed to parts of the globalist agenda. He's been his whole life one of the environmentalist climate change guys, but this was a bridge too far. The whole issue of uh, the so-called vaccines, the experimental jabs, and all of that, he was against that and is against that. So we saw on the left, all across the planet, many people in Greens groups and socialist groups and whatnot were opposed to this health treaty. It was primarily conservatives who were opposed to it, but there's a big crossover here, and so they had to strip out some of these things which were in the amendments. So they got the pandemic agreement passed last year in May, and so now they're going to now they wanted to get these amendments onto it to get it back to what they had originally planned. And these amendments give massive new powers into lockdown authority, quarantines, isolation, to give distribution of medical equipment, all of these things and to designate who may travel if they have or have not passed a medical test. So the push is on for digital medical IDs, and this is what the Council on Foreign Relations in their Global Health Initiative and the World Economic Forum are pushing as well. They want to have everyone have a digital ID so that it'll be just like the Chinese social credit system, where your face is digitized, all the biometrics. You are monitored all the time. You have to, in order to go anywhere, you better have all of your vaccines and your boosters, all 14, 15, 19 of them.
And they admit that. And Dr. Ryan, the head of their global response, basically says we're going to lock you up even if you criticize what we're
yes,
doing. And here's the key. People say, okay, well, that's for a pandemic. No. Bill Gates, the UN, China's involved in the standardization process. They admit this is the global ID for the ESG, for the social credit score, for everything. It's a lot bigger than just medical tyranny. That's bad enough. This is the rollout of the global ID. This is it. This is the UN in control.
right. And so they're using this as one very important uh, node in their whole plan because they know they can get people to panic if they can present them with a very scary scenario, another pandemic. It's going to be harder because so many millions of people all over the globe have gotten wise to it after this last rollout. They've been trying for over 30 years to get enough panic going under the climate change thing. But as we point out in this issue of the magazine, just recently, one of Biden's top environmental advisors says we've lost the climate change culture war. People are not responding to this. And so Democrats have to change their tune if we don't want to just become a left-wing niche movement on climate. And they're not giving this up yet, but they recognize that the global warming hoax is not playing as they wanted it to.
And meanwhile, though, in the EU, they're trying to outlaw, not in just the general public, but in Parliament, which is ceremonial, denying that climate change and denying carbon taxes. So they're very, very desperate, and they admit they're quote losing.
Yes, and so and this is part of last year at the World Economic Forum. Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the European Union Council, she gave the keynote address on disinformation and misinformation. That's their big thing. This has been going on for quite some time, as you know. You've been accused of disinformation, misinformation, as have I. Uh, and but they want to be able to create enough panic that there's all this disinformation going on, which there is obviously, but this is gaslighting by the people who are creating the most important, dangerous disinformation and misinformation. They are projecting that on us, claiming that all of us who oppose their grand scheme for humanity, the Great Reset, etc., we are the disinformation agents. When you try to speak truth, when you're a truth seeker, a truth speaker, you're guilty of disinformation. And so they have been pushing for, and last September, so in January of last year, the World Economic Forum came out with this disinformation, misinformation push. In September of last year, they had their Summit of the Future at the United Nations. And as we pointed out, very few people understand this, but in 2017, the United Nations and the World Economic Forum signed officially a strategic partnership. And we present photos of it in there of Klaus Schwab and uh, Antonio Gutierrez, the Secretary General of the UN, signing this and giving this agreement to each other. Well, they had been working hand in glove for years, for decades, but now they made it official. So here you have a private organization, the World Economic Forum, and they are officially partners of the United Nations, not just an NGO, but a strategic partner. And so the globalists in their private billionaire jet setting club are now able to work directly with the UN, and the two have become melded as one.
And they're no longer
And
even hiding it that it's a
yeah,
Kissinger Club of Rome,
we've said,
WF corporate governance meeting that was always merged with the UN, now officially doing it, so they don't have to hide it. So shifting gears, reminding me of private groups operating as governments, the private Federal Reserve with its foreign shareholders, Jerome Powell refusing to lower interest rates, though the very same group did it for the EU, and now criminal referrals on him for the $2.5 billion renovation of the palace that he lied about and said there's nothing nice being put in. Well, then where's the $2.5 billion going? And just all of that. How should Trump respond to the private run-for-profit Federal Reserve?
well, I agree. I only caught the last couple of minutes of Roger Stone's program with you, but I agree with them wholeheartedly. We need to abolish the Federal Reserve. And in fact, we need to repeal 1913. I mean, not only did we get the Federal Reserve, but we got the graduated income tax and something which is seldom mentioned. We got the 17th Amendment for the direct election of senators. And most people, that's kind of something out there for them. They go, well, what's wrong with that? Of course, we're a democracy. We vote for our senators. No, how did
The
before
founders didn't want an imperial Senate, and so you popularly elect the House members. I know you know this, but before, though, the legislature would elect and could then recall them, giving states a check and balance on federal overreach.
Yeah, that I see that was one of the very important checks and balances. Most people in your civics classes, if they even talk about this at all, when they're not busy destroying all the reputations of all our founding fathers and pulling down all the statues and monuments, if they talk about checks and balances at all, it's about the three co-equal branches of government, their checks upon each other. Well, the big check and balance in our federal system was the state versus the national government. And so the Constitution gives delegated powers to the federal government, to the national government. That is only those powers that are enumerated, that are delegated, because the colonies, the states that became states then, they were the principals, and the federal government was the agent. And so they're delegating, the principals are delegating certain powers. They said the rest we are reserving to ourselves. So
Which
that's
again
why
is the 10th Amendment.
that's why we have the 10th Amendment. those powers not delegated specifically to the United States nor prohibited by the Constitution to the states are reserved to the
or the people.
states or to the people. So
So you
they
got
the
another layer of
vast
that. Exactly. And that's the beauty of the true balance of power. So you can't get a dictatorship or an oligarchy.
yeah, and so when the prior to the passage of the 17th Amendment, the states had a check on the federal government. We still have certain checks on the government, and that's why our push from for MAGA to go MASA, MASA, make America states again, and
And by
the
the way, you're
states
also
still
worried
have
about
the
con. I know you saw my post where I was like, I like the idea of these amendments. It doesn't mean I like the idea of the con.
right, right. So I mean, if we're going to amend the Constitution, the safest way to go about it is the rather laborious, long process of going through the states. The states approve of it, and then individually. You don't open it up for for a convention where everything is up for grabs. We would have no control over that, and you can bet the globalists, with all of their assets, all of their money, all of their rent-a-mobs, would dominate it, and we would lose everything. So. Uh, right now, we're fortunate in that there is legislation to repeal the Federal Reserve Act, to abolish the Federal Reserve, and the problem that we run into, particularly with all of the rhino Republicans, I agree with. I caught that part of Roger Stone's interview too. Our real problem is with the rhino Republicans, the sellout Republicans, who every 2 years if they're congressmen, every 4 years if they're governors, 6 years if they're senators, they run to the right and they say, yes, I'm for a Second Amendment, I'm for free speech, I'm for cutting government spending, I'm for protecting and securing our borders. They know what we want to hear, so they all run out and say that. And then they get back to Washington and they do the same thing over and over again. That's why we have our congressional scorecards, our scoreboard at the New American. If you go there, right across the top ribbon there, you can see. Click on it. You can see your representative, your senators, how they actually vote on key issues according to the Constitution. I mean, you've probably played videos, clips of Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Gerald Nadler, uh, Raskin, all of these guys talking about the rule of law and the Constitution, and we have to obey the Constitution, and they turn right around and completely eviscerate it. Well, a lot of the Republicans do that too. That's one of the things at the New American, at the John Birch Society. We are nonpartisan. We are we are equal employment opportunity here when it comes to examining, watching, criticizing those who deviate from their oath of office for the Constitution.
Absolutely. And I wanted to
So,
get you on just about a report card. So join us again soon. We can drill into who you think's bad, who you think's
sure.
good from the evidence. But I mean, overall, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think Trump will recover from this. I think it overall shows that, how, let's just say, not even burnout, but just how he's so focused. That's a good thing. He doesn't care about the globalists. And in real policies, he's devastating them. And I'm in pure horror, at things going sideways. And I sure hope there's nothing bad there. But I'm refreshed now that as the stuff comes out, it's exactly what we thought, a bunch of ridiculous, no evidence poison pills injected. And they've really set Trump up. But just in closing, only about a minute left. What else do you think the American people can do right now at this critical time?
Well, I mean, you look around, we are facing enormous dangers all around. Trump is doing what he promised about uh, uh, getting all the deporting all of the illegal aliens, and you see the desperation that the globalists, the one worlders, are employing. Epstein episode is one of them. All of the lawfare and media attacks on him, all of the attacks on ICE and on the border patrol, by all of the rent-a-mobs that Soros and all of the Doge effort thus far has revealed what we have shown for decades, that there would be no left-wing army out there, no
Oh, I
left-wing
learned about
militia.
NGOs from you. Okay, we got O'Keefe coming up, but stay there. I want to do 5 more minutes with you and talk about that because
Yes, and so every day I get emails from all the different communist, leftist, Indivisible, from the Communist Party USA, from the Revolutionary Communist Party, from all of dozens of these organizations. They're all bewailing the fact that they're having to close down so many of their offices. All of the If you look at any sector of the left, whether it's the LGBTQ, LMNOP groups, or the enviro groups that are pushing all the destruction of fossil fuels and global warming, or all of the race baiting organizations, uh, all across the board. Anytime you see a demonstration anywhere, anytime the UN is having a summit, and all of a sudden there are hundreds of kids or college students there, or thousands, these are all artificial astroturf organizations posing as grassroots organizations. This is really the UN version of the Soviets. In the Soviet Union, a Soviet was a group of office workers or manufacturing workers or steel workers or et cetera, who supposedly were representative of the larger group that they were
when you hear
named.
stakeholder, that's Soviet commie talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was our correspondent at the United Nations for over 30 years. And I went to all these UN summits. Everywhere, on every one of them, whether it's a human rights one or it's an environmental one or the International Criminal Court, you have hundreds of these NGOs that have been brought into the UN. When I first started going, they had their own separate forum. Then the globalists decided we need to bring these people in to bring pressure from below while we give pressure from above at the political level and at the media level. And then we'll put all of these delegates, and it works the same in Congress, get them in a pressure cooker because they think, oh my gosh, I got to go along with this because everybody's for it. This is a mirage. It's a delusion. These people really have no constituency. All of these thousands, the UN has thousands of NGOs that are registered with them. They won't allow you to be in there if you don't endorse the Charter of the United Nations and the objectives of the United Nations. So they have their own uh, uh, pressure organization in there to give pressure from below while they get pressure from
And then they're
above.
funded by the other globalist organizations. And as you know, what is there, 31 articles in it? It has all these wonderful imaginary rights until the last 2 articles that say the UN can disregard this and is basically a totalitarian dictatorship when it wants to be.
Yeah, and so the important thing that Doge did was show how U.S. aid, and U.S. aid is just one of many, but it was the principal one which was funding all of these all over the world, not just in the United States, but every department, education, energy, EPA, defense, State Department, they all fund these
And that's the
things.
original corporate government ESG management system through the CIA. As McCarthy discovered, our own Pentagon and CIA was funding the communists. That's when they shut him down. It was fine when he was just targeting individual communists because they use that for a police state, but not when he saw the grand design. And so this is how they do it. It's how they get it done. How do people follow you on X, William?
Well, my X account isn't active right now, but I'm on thenewamerican.com and jbs.org, which is the John Birch Society.
Breaking. And first look at some other big stories they're about to break. The Disney DEI developments, Disney DEI actions that are just shocking. The great O'Keefe Media Group, and of course, founder of Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, right here in the InfoWars World Headquarters in a few minutes. But first, here's President Trump.
This is really a big day. This afternoon, we take a giant step to cement American dominance of global finance and crypto technology as we sign the landmark Genius Act, into law. So congratulations to everybody. This is a big deal. You've come a long way since the Biden administration, when they had no idea what you were all talking about, and half of you were under arrest for no reason whatsoever. True, for no reason. And we want to have it, not China. China wasn't actually happy. They were watching this. They like it, and we've got this. We've got AI. We've got a lot of great ones happening, and this is a very big thing. And I want to thank the bill's author, Senator Bill Hagerty, a very good friend of mine. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. He's a very handsome guy. Looks great. He's got the whole package. But, you know, I got to know him. He was ambassador to Japan, and we had a little problem with Japan on trade. But he was my ambassador to Japan, and I went to Japan, and he is speaking fluently Japanese. I said, "Did you learn it as a child?" No, I just learned it over the last 4 or 5 months. I said, "You learned Japanese?" Maybe the single hardest language to learn. It's actually breathing. Rather than, it's breathing. I'm not going to imitate it because we'll end up with a big story, and I don't want that. But he spoke totally fluent Japanese. I said, "That's very impressive." And he was introducing me to Mr. Honda. I said, "Oh, are you in the car business?" He goes, "Yes." I said, "You're a very rich man." And then he said, "Mr. Toyota, right? Toyota." And I said, "What business are you in?" Let me guess. He said, "Cars." He was my interpreter, and I was so impressed. And I was getting ready to leave. He said, "Sir, I'd like to run for the United States Senate." I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Tennessee." I said, "Well, I love Tennessee, but do they know you there?" "No, but if you endorse me, I'll win," right? And I endorsed him, and he took a 48-point lead. And they didn't know who the hell he was. And he's turned out to be a great senator. And now they all know who you are. Yeah, so you're fantastic, and we thank you. And just the fact that you're doing this and you understand this is a complicated world, and you understand it, Bill. So you've been great. Thank you very much. We're also pleased to be joined by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. J.D., thank you very much. Good job. And he's been up speaking late at night on the phone. I said, "JD, how about you taking 3 or 4 of these people, please? Because 3 or 4 I cannot speak to. I just can't." And he'd take them, and he'd come through. Right, JD? Also, Speaker Mike Johnson. He is unbelievable. He's an unbelievable... I mean, if you go by what we're doing, if you keep at this pace, you can't keep it up for another... 200 days, but I will tell you this, if you keep up this pace for another week, you go down as the greatest speaker in the House in history. So, one more week. One more week. Who needs Tip O'Neill? Who needs Tip O'Neill? He's better looking than Tip O'Neill, too. But, no, he's been going at a fervent pace. Would you say that's right? Your wife probably says, "You are crazy." You've been aging beautifully at front. He's an amazing speaker, a great leader, and everybody likes him and respects him, and that's why we're with a very small majority, like 3. We had a time when we were 1. Remember? We said we're 1 heart attack away from losing the House. Then we won a couple of seats and a couple of other. Now we have 7, maybe if we're lucky, 7. But we win with nobody's ever done. I don't think anyone's ever done this before, to win with this.
Ghislaine Maxwell and the second case there in New York with Epstein, all sorts of little BS things. And so obviously they're trying to set Trump up, in my opinion. I don't believe there's any evidence of that there, but I haven't talked to you other than a few text messages. I don't know your overall view. I know a few months ago you broke the exclusive stuff inside Epstein Island. You probably know more about this in the cover-up from whistleblowers than any journalist. So James O'Keefe, thank you for coming. What brings you to Austin?
I'm doing a tour for this new TV show we have on Unified.tv about Disney, about the CIA. So I'm promoting that series. But with Epstein, yeah, that Bondi video we did a few months ago it seems to be a bigger deal now than I thought it was. And she was in the restaurant saying there's tens of thousands of video with children. We reached out to the Bondi, to the Attorney General's office. They gave us they wanted to know exactly what she said. We provided that quote. to her, and then she went on the White House lawn and said that. There's tens of thousands of videos. So this has been a developing story. And
well, I thought you were getting out of your skis, which I wasn't even critical. I was just questioning, and I think you were a visionary again, unfortunately.
Well, I was at the Turning Point conference last weekend, and it struck me. I said, how many, by show of hands, think the Department of Justice is lying? And almost every hand went up. So,
and I saw Laura Ingraham do similar things. People are pissed.
People are pissed. I've never seen anything quite like it. And the Department of Justice has the power to unredact certain parts of the affidavit. You know, Alex, as in my FBI raid, they redacted every sentence of the probable cause. So they have the power to unredact certain things, and I believe the truth will come out. If the Department of Justice doesn't put it out, then whistleblowers will come forward and put it out themselves.
Well, now we have Anna Paulina Luna, the congresswoman, saying she has FBI agent coming to her saying that evidence was destroyed and that it was the Democrats.
Is that right? I didn't see that today.
That just broke last night.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, we have the Epstein stuff to talk about. We have the Disney stuff. We have Johnson & Johnson we just broke just a few days ago. Another pharmaceutical executive, lead regulatory scientist at Johnson & Johnson saying the vaccine is not safe or effective. My job is to confirm suspicions, Alex. Perhaps not to surprise people, but to prove things visually for people.
Well, I know you don't like to speculate. You've liked Trump. He's really supported you. And we'll get into the Johnson & Johnson, the first look at the Disney expose and more. It's great to have you here. But first off, just not speculation, but just with the gestalt of info you have in all your sources, why would Trump do such a horrible Streisand effect and say, don't look at this, there was never anything, and do a 180? What a PR disaster. Now they figured it out. And what Roger Stone recommended last week, they've done. And I know he told the president over and over again as I talked to him about it, hey, you got to, say, release the stuff out of Ghislaine's trial. They fired Comey's daughter that ran it, and, get all this out. Regardless of what Trump now says, that the same crew, Brennan, Comey, and all of them that had control of the file, spiked it. I think that makes sense. That's what they do. But how do you think Trump, who's normally savvy, just engaged in something that was like dumping blood in the water for sharks?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't like to speculate. I don't have any first-hand information. The question I have is, why would they, and the FBI agents, we released a recording a week ago, Alex, where an FBI senior intelligence agent with the FBI is saying that this is a, quote, shit show, and the FBI agents on audio recording saying they could need to handle this better and they haven't been fully transparent. So the question I have is, why is the Attorney General of the United States and this director in the FBI saying all these things to strangers in restaurants? They need to be transparent immediately with us.
And why are they 180ing sometimes in the same day?
There's no good answer to that question. So this is not a good situation, regardless of the outcome. It hasn't been handled well, but I believe the truth will come out. And
well, obviously, when you brought this out months ago, widely criticized, you had rumblings, or why were you were cryptic on the phone, but you said, looks like they're going to cover up.
I was scared because the Prince Andrew stuff, this was a guy that was very close to Prince Andrew saying he's, raping underage girls, and it was on video. And my undercover reporter was scared. And she was rightfully scared, and I was scared. Sometimes
the MI6 will kill you over that stuff.
This is a little bit scary, and I think what we have to remember is
well, it's not a little bit. Your organization has balls bigger than elephants.
And she went on Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan was grilling. Excuse me, the guy that worked for Prince Andrew went on Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan was grilling them. I mean, what are you guys doing? Why aren't you being honest? And the guy said, I got to give credit to O'Keefe's people, the undercover people that got this. He did not deny it, Alex. So it sometimes can be terrifying. I went dark for 2 weeks. I didn't tweet. Because sometimes it's stuff.
And I misunderstood our conversation. You weren't saying even the Epstein was the biggest. When I thought back, you're like, it's the Prince Andrew, and some people thought, what O'Keefe says this is the most dangerous. No, you were saying that was because this is the king and the prince's fixer saying, yeah, he lied, he raped a bunch of underage girls. And that is, and people said, we already knew that. We didn't have the smoking gun proof.
You got to have the proof. I mean, you have to remember your audience knows all this stuff, but a lot of people don't know it. The American people are very newbies. The American people are not in agreement upon the facts, so it's important for me to confirm suspicions.
I mean, anybody that doesn't know, they've killed a lot of people to cover for the Royals.
And my undercover reporter was pretty scared, rightfully so. So I have to protect her, and this is heavy, dark stuff. So we had a source come to us from within the government and had images from inside Epstein's chalkboard. We're trying to decipher what this means. And this is information the FBI has. So,
well, they had cleaned out a lot more than that, too.
They did. And we got inside the temple. We saw the celestial paintings, some of the Gothic statues, some of the demonic books on the bookshelf there. We published all those images, and I think it's up to us, the people. My call to action, people watching, here is we have to do this ourselves. We cannot.
We'll talk about the demonic. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Demonic books.
They had like some Satan books and some very strange pagan statues in the library and a chalkboard that said power, deception, money. This was inside his library on the island. Images that we've never seen before. His library, horns on statues, really, and a baby with like sucking on a phallic instrument in a kitchen. It was really sick.
By the way,
stuff.
Absolutely. And they use fake right-wing whisper campaigns like they do now to attack you like it was nothing. I've been getting the same thing.
I think
because they know they can't attack us from the left now, so they attack.
That's true. And you get that too?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think people do, even in the MAGA movement, Alex, sometimes people conjure up, they imagine what this could be, and it never rises to their expectation. But what I believe is that...
Oh, yeah, so people that actually do things and are the trailblazers with the best record, it's not good enough. The people that sit in there in their basement, they've got all the answers.
People need to take action. But I believe, I mean, for them to say that there's no evidence that anybody did anything wrong... I mean, we got...
Well, that was the... I mean, we've got Ben Shapiro saying this looks like Epstein never even jaywalked. He's innocent.
We released photos in his bedroom. There's a telephone. Again, this is images that we released, and there's names on those speed dials. You're trying to tell me that none of those people were an accessory before the fact, accessory after the fact? Of course there's a story there. Of course there's that. But the Department of Justice can unredact the affidavit, just like in my case. I was raided. They redacted every word. They need to unredact most of that affidavit. We don't want to see child porn or anything like that. We just want to see...
Oh, yeah, that was the most insulting, the talking point. You want child porn. No, we never said release that. We said indict the perpetrators.
That's right. So, but my call to action is if you're in the FBI, if you're in any foreign intelligence community, if you're in the CIA and you have information, we need you to come forward. And I can't guarantee you that that'll be easy for you physically, but spiritually, it's the right thing to do. Do it for your conscience. Do it for your country. We can no longer rely upon the government, to be honest. But the government's self-preserving, Alex. They want to protect... Let me be less abstract. There are confidential FBI informants at my organization, Project Veritas. And there's redactions. And under those redactions are the names of those informants. But the public's right to know. Okay, there you go. Look at this. Look at this. I always bring this up every week now. It shocks people. Every single word of the probable cause, that's the justification, to raid my newsroom has been redacted.
Well, when I got a part of my FBI file from Trump, from an older FOIA earlier this year, it's almost all blacked out, but it's national security by Obama ongoing. And it's just crazy. Kafka-esque being accused of something, a dragnet for 10 years, found nothing, and they won't even tell you the specifics.
That's right. And I'm going to have to sue the Department of Justice to get answers. And I don't want to do that. But the public's right to know why they're doing this supersedes their right to protect their FBI confidential informants. That's the bottom line. Pam Bondi put out the statement yesterday saying they're going to unredact some of this. Alex, what did you think of that? She putting that statement out.
I mean, they tried to just, end it, but they know it's come a fiasco, the worst thing they could have done. And now they're going to supposedly go to these courts and get them to release it. And I think the government, according to lawyers I've talked to, has the power to do that. So absolutely. I mean, I'm glad that they are now coming to their senses. I mean, to watch Trump self-harm like this has been very painful, and I had to tell the truth, had to criticize it, and then I've had a bunch, some of the listeners, not the majority, get really mad at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'll go where the truth is. I can't.
It was very hard for me to do that story on Pam Bondi. It's not I don't dislike her or like her. That's not the issue. It's just you got to tell the truth, and it was a hard one to do. But at the end of the day, I believe.
Well, you asked me on the phone. You said, "Do you think I should do it?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, that's what I'm going to do."
That's what I mean. What would I be if I didn't publish that? What would I be if I helped?
You'd almost be an accomplice to whatever it is.
Right. So it's a tough situation that the administration has put people in. But listen, bottom line is let me be optimistic. The truth is going to come out. People are going to come forward. I have faith that we're going to see the truth here.
All right, let's start shifting gears into Johnson & Johnson. We'll play a clip of it. You're like, hey, this is 2 days.